We're live.
Hi, everyone. Welcome back to So What About Crypto? And welcome back to Billy. You guys didn't know, but Billy was on a really nice vacation. He really
Well,
needed some
a
time off.
nice
Well, you
long
worked really
weekend.
hard. Yeah, weekend. I'm sorry. Weekend. You were working before that, but you're back from a really fun, nice,
Yep,
relaxing weekend and ready to go.
needed that.
Oh, everybody needs that more than
Mm-hmm.
ever. But if you've been listening to our podcast, we've had some great people on to talk about the basics, and we've talked a lot about money and financial system, our financial
Mm-hmm.
system, and taking looks at other countries and how things are operating there, and some leaders of some emergent technology that's designed to really help us all and level the playing field,
And trying to simplify it.
and really trying to break it down, because there are a lot of podcasts out there who where the people on there are so very technical and way above my pay grade.
Yeah.
That if you're really like a technical junkie, these podcasts are for you. We're really trying to appeal to people who are just dipping their toes into this space, and we don't want to scare them away with a bunch of technical stuff. And I think it's important that there are many different ways to learn about Bitcoin, blockchain, and the whole everything that comes
Yeah.
with it.
Hopefully, it's not
So,
learning by losing it.
yeah, well, that's a tough lesson, but yes, we're trying to prevent that. But I got an email from a founder and CEO who has created a game, and it's a card game that helps people do just that. It helps people understand blockchain a little bit better, and Bitcoin, and how things work, and some of the terms you may have heard when you've heard other people talking about it or read about it in the news, things like blockchain and immutability and hacker proof, and just all those kinds of terms that you hear with it. Anyway, he sent me an email and told me he'd created a card game, and it helps people learn. And I thought, this is great. I love this, because this is the way you reach people. And then, everybody learns different ways.
Yeah.
And I think he has come up with a unique and fun way to help people learn. Everybody, please help me welcome Scott Sibley. He's the founder and CEO of SHAmory. Hi,
Thanks for Hi
Scott.
everybody. Thanks for
Welcome,
having
Scott.
me and for that great intro.
Of course, because life is all fun and games
We hope so.
when necessary.
No, very much so, and hopefully this game goes a long way, like you said, to kind of laying the foundation of awareness and education and fun at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Oh, of
Well,
course. And Bill and I always like to know. I mean, we'll definitely talk about the game, obviously, and I want people to take a look at it, and I got to tell you, I watched the video, so I need some help learning it. But we always like to find out, like, what you did in your old life before
Yeah.
you got into blockchain and crypto and this whole space.
Yeah. So good question. It's one I've actually thought about a lot over this period of time. And really, if I think about it deep enough, my synergies back to blockchain, Bitcoin, and that kind of realm of things actually goes back by, I guess, trade, for lack of better words. I graduated with an accounting degree and worked at an accounting firm in their audit department for 3 or 4 years back in the early 2000s. And obviously that was before anybody had any idea what Bitcoin was, because it hadn't been invented yet. But if you really think about it, my job as an auditor was to go into these companies and essentially verify that their accounting records were correct or not correct. And also, based on my work, be able to allow somebody coming behind me to verify that what I'm saying is correct. So when I really think about it, it's kind of a long way to say, in the early 2000s, before anybody had idea what it is, that was kind of ingrained in the back of my head, to the importance of that verifiability and trustworthiness of what you're looking at, whether it's numbers or anything else. But if I fast forward from there, my story specifically kind of starts like a lot of other people. That last bull run pulled me in, just like a lot of other people. It was the numbers going up, not only in Bitcoin, but everything surrounding it, getting sucked into the good and the bad of that. And then what I like to think of is, unlike a lot of other people that may have been pushed away after seeing what these past 2.5, 3 years have brought, it just kept consuming more and more into wanting to learn, okay, yeah, I came in here focused on a lot of different, there's different coins and whatnot, but let me understand Bitcoin better. And as I took that rabbit hole dive, then I kind of saw the light more, and ultimately, and we can get more into this, started saying, well, I want to help that education process be as easy as possible for that next generation, especially the kids. So this game can be for kids or adults, but especially those kids who may be interested.
Right. I love it. The simplicity of the game you created. I don't care if it's for kids. I need it explained to me like that. It's explained to me like I'm 7.
Now, how exactly do you say the name of this game?
So it's SHAmory, and so it actually comes from the 2 key things that, as I created the game, made it come to life. So the SHA-256 cryptographic algorithm is what powers the Bitcoin blockchain. Don't worry, you don't need to know anything about that in order to play, but that's where the SHA comes from. And then Mori actually comes from the game of memory. So I'm sure all 3 of us played the game of memory at some point in our life. And that's really as simple as the game is. Really a reformed game of memory that creates blocks to be able to then, create your hashes and build it up and go from there. So those are the 2 key components of the name.
Well, I think kids would love it, because I know when my kids were like 2 and 3, they'd beat the heck out of me on these card memory games.
Yep. No, we've had the feedback. I started pre-selling in April and shipping in early July, so it's only been a few months. But the feedback from kids and parents that have started to play has been overwhelming, is probably the only appropriate word. Just hearing people say different things that their kids are learning, not only about Bitcoin and blockchain, but just about things that they need to learn in life in general, has been just really, really cool to see around the world.
It's really, I love hearing from people, especially people who have some kind of background in finance, accounting, because those people like you had a grasp or have a grasp on how the economy works, how taxes work, how Wall Street works. And I feel like when those people who are on that side kind of see what is offered on the other side, when you go down that rabbit hole of learning about blockchain and Bitcoin, I just love hearing their stories, because it's like 2 different worlds, but you absolutely get it and see why the way we've been living so long, and what we've perceived about our economy isn't always what we thought it was.
Right.
So I love to hear that people like you, who, you were immersed in that life and people like that, and you get it. So you said you initially got into Bitcoin because, there was for people learning, there was one particular bull run, which was what, late 2017?
Yeah. So December 2017, or I guess that was kind of the end of it, early 2018. And then hopefully we're picking back up now.
and then kaboom. But from there, back then. But, some people got into it because of, money. They saw the dollar signs and they think, oh, I'm going to make the money. And, if that's the only reason, I think once they get a taste of the volatility and what they could lose, some people just make the exit and go, oh, it's not for me. But there's so much more to it than that. And it's obvious that you saw that. Even after maybe not successfully surviving financially through the bull run, like many people. So when did you actually start thinking, I need to create something to help people learn?
It was probably a little over a year ago now, year and a half or so ago, when I said, I want, I don't know if I necessarily started with, I want to help with the learning side, but I said, I want to be involved in this industry in some way. And then besides having that accounting background, what my role has been for the past 12, 13 years has actually been at an ed tech company here in San Diego that I still work at as my full-time job currently. And so I have kind of that background in the education space as well. Not only from that, but my mom was a 30+ year teacher. I have aunts and uncles that were all teachers in the kind of traditional K-12 system. So I come from a lineage where education in some form is in my background. And so I saw through the work that I'm doing in my day-to-day life around the product that we're working on is called Journeys Map, and it's all about bringing awareness of career pathways to individuals, and just the fact that first step is awareness, and how powerful that awareness can be to make sure that that individual can then figure out what's next for them. And so I think all that combined into me to say, well, I like taking things that are complex and making them as simple as possible, which is the attempt at this game. And I like helping people become aware of things without having to worry about kind of the minute details of everything, because those things can what cause the biggest hurdles. So those factors let me say, I want to create something along those lines. And then the game went through, probably 5-10 different types of iterations. And it wasn't the real clicking moment came from the fact that when you're thinking about Bitcoin mining, which I've never owned a miner, I've never mined myself, but just as I started learning more about it, I boiled it down to two things. There's something called a nonce, there's something called a target. If those two things sync up, then the block gets mined. And that's when it clicked in my head. I'm like, well, if you're matching a nonce and a target, that's no different than flipping over two cards in memory. And then essentially the game was born from there.
So I was just going to say, how does one decide that that's it? It's a card game. That's what I'm going to do.
Yep.
Because I don't know that if I was forced into a room and the door locked and somebody said you can't come out till you create a game, that would even happen. So that was your kind of aha moment then. Yep. With the game.
Yep, that was really the aha moment, and then it went through different iterations even after that, from everything from gameplay to the way the cards look through that time. And so it was in February, March or so of this year that I actually had the graphics and everything lined up and started going through the production. And then obviously COVID made that take a little bit longer, given everything that went on around the production manufacturing world. But long story short, it came to life.
Well, certainly the cards look like a lot of fun. Like I can see where kids would have fun with this, engaged. But I love that you are a STEM certified game. How did you go about getting that done?
Yeah, that was something I was really proud of as well. And so actually, it was a nice happenstance where through my job at Journeys Map, we had got connected with the CEO of STEM.org, which is really the largest certifying organization in this space. We were talking about other job stuff, but then he brought up the fact, something around blockchain in general. And I weaved into the conversation that I just created this game. At the time, it hadn't even been out yet. And he's like, oh, let me, that might be something we can, certify, pass along the information. Probably after passing along what they needed, probably took 3 or 4 weeks. And one day I was, sitting at the computer, got an email saying it went through. I got certified. The cool thing is actually they store all their credentials on a blockchain themselves. So to kind of help that verifiability. So it was a nice kind of synergy there as well.
Oh, wow. Well, that makes sense.
Yeah.
And I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's really, really cool. And so hopefully, while I haven't pursued this just yet, hopefully that STEM certification can help kind of open the doorways into the more traditional learning spaces that, probably aren't even touching Bitcoin or blockchain yet, but kind of help them see how it can play a role in whether their school or an after school program or a STEM academy. The options are endless.
So is it difficult to get that STEM certification? I mean, I know it's a source of pride, and it absolutely would be for me. Yeah. But I would imagine that there are quite a few people developing products who want that coveted endorsement.
Yeah, I guess knock on wood, I'll say it was easy for us or for me. Why that was, maybe I just had the right information or just kind of hit the right nails on the head. But it was a pretty smooth process from my end. They certified not only games, but also if you're a teacher, you can be certified. If you're a school, you can be certified. So they kind of have 3 different main buckets that they can place people or other types of things in, and kind of help that process. And they've been around since 2000, I believe, doing this sort of work.
So what do you find, have you had anybody play this, like say an adult, and then
Mhm.
like they get it, and then suddenly they're like, oh, I got to go buy some Bitcoin.
So I would say, I don't know. I'm guessing yes. I haven't had that exact comment yet. Probably mostly because so far, I would imagine the majority of the people that are buying it right now already have Bitcoin. So maybe it's saying,
Yeah.
it's reminding me to go buy some more. What I have heard over and over again, particularly from the parents, is saying, this is the first time my kid has like understood even a little bit of what I'm talking about and has been engaged with it. So I've had multiple people send me DMs or tweets or emails saying, hey, I was just, no joke, I was just upstairs working in my office, and I could hear my kids chanting Bitcoin, Bitcoin, Bitcoin over and over again. And I came downstairs and they were sitting there playing the game.
Well, I know my son is really the only child of mine that has expressed an interest. When he was 10 years old, he started asking me a bit about it.
Yeah.
And it was usually at a point in time where I'm like, I don't have the time to really explain it. And I felt like I needed to sit down and show him something on a computer or something.
Yeah.
And so I really didn't take the opportunity, but I'm looking forward to trying this to see, how they get it.
Yeah.
But what ties it together with the implications of like, why do I care for a kid, for instance?
So I think there's a few different lessons that have come about from all this, some that I never even thought of. So one thing that has been told to me by a few different parents is, and this isn't necessarily specific to Bitcoin, but just kind of really life in general, I guess. He was saying he had I think like a 7-year-old and 11-year-old, and the 7-year-old's a boy and the 11-year-old's a girl. And the 7-year-old boy is naturally very competitive, and would get upset typically if he's playing a game and he loses, the typical story. And he said he sat down with the kids, and they were playing for the first time, and they ended up successfully completing the game, so they mined the blocks to the appropriate amount, and the daughter ended up having the most rewards at the end of the day, and that really upset the son. But what then happened, which he didn't expect, is the second time they played, the same sort of thing happened, but the son realized, wait a minute, just because she got 4 rewards and I got 3 doesn't mean she won. It just means she got more than me, but we're all winners because we're all in this together to make sure the block chain doesn't get attacked. Because if it doesn't get attacked, then we're all winners. And then the dad took it one step further. I think at the time Bitcoin was around 10,000, which I guess it's around there today. He was like, hey, you're right. That's awesome. And just think of this. You have 3. Those 3 rewards are worth 6.25 Bitcoin each, and then multiply that by 3, and then multiply that by 10,000. That's really what you just won by successfully doing this. So we're all winners here. And so that lesson is one I think is awesome, but I had never even thought of before putting the game out, that I thought was just super cool. And I've heard it from a few different people.
Yeah, that's when the kids went on Alexa and bought some mining rigs.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, by the way, the guest room is now a fully operational mining facility.
It's really loud.
So, I mean, speaking of mining, this game, if I understand it correctly, is specifically about Bitcoin mining. I mean, and the importance of learning about mining and everything that comes with it, with as far as the safety and security of a blockchain and why it's important.
Yeah, I guess that's one way to put it. I guess before that, I would even say the game is simply about Bitcoin awareness, and then bringing that about through the aspect of mining is how it kind of comes to life. I don't expect, especially for the younger kids, to actually necessarily know everything that's going on from a technical sense. They just need to know the gameplay, and hopefully that's laying the groundwork for knowing, oh, maybe it's 2 years from now, maybe it's 20 years from now, who knows? But something in the back of their head clicks and says, I remember doing this back when I was 5, and now it's making more sense to me. I was on a show a few weeks ago, and the 2 people on it were in their 60s, and they said, you know what? I've never understood the way mining works until you explained it as simply as you did. So I think you can go from both ends of the spectrum for the young and the old, whereas the old might take it that next step and say, okay, now I know that little underlying basic. Maybe I want to go, pick up an article here or a book there, or watch a video, over here. Maybe that's the next trigger for them to really dive into the technicals of what's going on, because I'm by no means the expert on that side of things, but hopefully I can be the rabbit hole starter.
whatever inspires us, right? Whatever gets people to at least become curious enough to try to learn more.
Yep.
Speaking of parents, so you said, 60-year-olds to down to 7-year-olds. Everybody, or I shouldn't say everybody, but a lot of people in this space say, if you can explain this to my grandparents and they get it, then, that's how we have to break it down. We have to break everything down to make our grandparents understand. What did your family say to you, your parents, your grandparents, if they're still with you, about this whole venture? Because my parents think I'm nuts.
I'm sure there's still a little of that, even if they're not saying it to my face. Luckily, my family includes, so I have a wife and we have a little over a 1-year-old. And so she's obviously not old enough to play yet. But one thing that's been awesome as a sidetrack, the way the cards are kind of created with, like you mentioned, the little characters, she finds them completely fascinating and just loves looking at them, will carry them around in her hand. So in my mind, that's another way to spread that awareness from a young age. But both my wife, going back, 3 years ago when I said, hey, I want to invest some of our money into this crazy space, letting it ride through and see where it goes. And then, year and a half ago when I had this idea, she's been extremely supportive, especially now helping to do the packing every time we get an order in and making sure that those are getting packed nicely and sent out to everybody. And then my parents have all, enjoyed hearing about what's going on, listening in on podcasts, learning a little bit more about it. I would say my dad probably knows the most from a more technical finance perspective. But both my mom and my stepmom, are extremely supportive. And I do have a grandma. She's 97, and she was one of the first orders to get sent off. And so there is that support there. We're not trying to have her go down the rabbit hole necessarily, but always nice to have your. Yesterday she turned 97, so your 97-year-old grandma holding something around Bitcoin is awesome to see.
All right, so I'm going to challenge you here.
Okay,
we're showing your video.
Yep.
on screen, and I'm going to scrub through it, and let's see if within a minute you can explain how this game works. And
okay.
Show it. So I know you go kind of slow on the video,
yep.
To explain it, but
so there are the two key things: the nonces and the target cards. So what you're seeing here is within those nonces, you're going to select a difficulty adjustment, and that's going to be set down there along with the other regular nonce cards, and they get set down just like you're playing memory. After that, you take your target cards and you're going to place them to the side. And then from there are 4 other cards. I'm not sure which order I show them here. There we go. Attack, which really is what's going to attack your chain, reward, block, and those kind of set the stage for everything, as well as the dice. Essentially, what you'll see here in a second is you roll the dice. Once you roll it, there's 2 different things that can happen. Either you mine or you get attacked. The goal is to find the matching of one that I just flipped over there. So that's the target. If I roll a mine, which is a different character, there we go. I'm going to flip over one of those cards. If I don't find it, next player rolls. If I do find it, things get matched up and you mine that block, which you'll see here in a few minutes. That's going to start creating your chain. If you were to roll an attack, there we go. We got the match there. There's the block. Ultimately, if you roll in an attack, that's going to start building on the side of your chain. If that gets longer than your blockchain at any time, the game starts over, everybody resets, and essentially the game ends. The other notion there is every time.
Let's see, I don't see that yet. Oh, there it is.
There we go.
Yeah,
so that's starting
up on us.
Exactly. So that's starting to build up in there. The other caveat that's built in there is there are difficulty adjustments that got skipped over, but that makes the game a little bit harder as you go along. And essentially, every time you mine something, you get a reward. And that's the end. You go to a height of 10. So there's
a 51% attack, right?
Exactly. And there's those rewards.
Right on.
So that's the quick and dirty version.
Yeah. Well done.
Yeah. Okay. And I was just telling Bill, it's like I watched the video and I was trying to follow along and slowly learning. But I guess it's just like anything where you could learn all you want out of a book. But until you start doing it and putting it in practice,
right,
that's when you're really going to learn. We take driver's ed, we learn all the rules of the road. We read everything in theory about what it's like to drive, but until we get behind the wheel, that's when you really start learning.
Yeah. And other people have even said I've had people say, oh, it'd be great if this is, there's an app version or a digital version, which I think it can be. Definitely, there's ways to make that happen. But I purposely started with the physical card version because I wanted to bring a sense of real to a heavily digital space. And so kind of to your point, if you can hold something, a lot of the times that helps kind of set the stage for understanding it more. So that's part of the reason why I went down the physical card game sense instead of just creating another app that would probably get lost out there in the various app stores and go from there. So that was part of the reason behind that.
Fun for the whole family.
Hopefully. Yep.
So what's next? Are you thinking about maybe creating other games to cover various aspects of the space?
Yeah, I think there are definitely other game ideas, but I've had people ask for extension packs, so ways to make that chain higher. So that's obviously a simple one to go out there. Based on the reception of the way the monsters look on the cards, both from younger kids and just really adults just thinking they're cool. There are ideas around ways that this can be turned into books around Bitcoin, shows, whether it's YouTube shows or whatever. Those ideas are out there. Plush toys is another way. I know my daughter would love that. So those are all kind of
cards.
Exactly. All those different ideas are out there, as well as one of the things that I hope to see come to life, especially hopefully as the pandemic eventually ends and conferences and more face-to-face aspects come back to the world, is around how the game can be used as a tool for other companies in the space for their marketing or swag purposes. So I've had conversations with a few of them around how being able to put their a gift from XYZ company on the card box, and using it to give to prospective clients or at a conference, and really studies show if you're a parent and you're going to a conference, you're more apt to take something that you're going to be able to bring back to your kids and be more excited about that than just getting another pencil or pen that's out there. So that is another aspect that I'm interested with in connecting with people about.
Awesome. Now, to me, the next question becomes, what's next in the journey for people to learn more? Like, as an extension of this game, like where does it end? You've got obviously who wins the game or not. Let's play again. But is there an extension of it that can say, well, now you're going to go learn about, name your issue, like exchanges or something.
I definitely have thought of building up kind of that more, let's call it educational space on the website, where whether it's through articles or videos or just simple ways to be able to help answer some of those questions in a very basic way. I know there's obviously a lot of great content out there already.
Yeah, you got to have a troll in the whole thing.
Yeah, you got to keep the little monsters.
Got to have the Twitter troll. It's got to be a part of this.
No doubt. So yeah, I think that's a very logical question that can come into play as well.
You said there's a lot of great content, but really there's also a lot of really bad content too.
Yep.
And that might not end up teaching people what they had intended when they find it. So it's nice to be able to break it down in ways that people can really understand without becoming so technical about it. I imagine that's some of the feedback that you get from people.
Yeah,
that it doesn't scare them away, not even the little monsters.
Yeah, exactly. No, definitely. That's definitely part of the feedback. And from, like I mentioned earlier, just part of the thing that's blown me away is just how it's taken a hold really around the world. I would say probably 40% of my orders have been international orders. And so whether it's, I had one from Ghana, Australia, Australia, the UK, London, you name it. Different ways, Venice the other day. So it's kind of seeing that spread like that has been really cool to see.
I don't remember, but when I looked on your website, is it translated for people in other countries?
It's not, not currently. I've had people reach out saying, hey, I'd love to translate this for XYZ. And I said, that could be part of it eventually. Right now, I need to focus on this version and getting it out there and gone out in those different areas. The good news is, really, it's a very visual game. So the majority of the translation would probably really need to be on kind of the gameplay rules and the website and how you play, since so much of it is just really a visual nature once you understand that.
I'd love to see a video of like 3 or 4 kids playing this.
Yeah.
Oh
Yep.
yeah, that'd be great.
Yep,
Yeah,
no.
if you could do that, that'd be fun.
4 drunk college students.
Yes, I've had people say, "Hey, when's there going to be the first high stakes version?" Like conferences, instead of playing poker at Bitcoin conference, just sitting around playing SHAmory. And so,
strip SHAmory.
That's it. Yep,
we don't want those videos. They can keep those.
Yeah. Yep, SHAmory after dark.
SHAmory after dark. Yes.
No forking.
Oh my, we could go on and on with the puns. No forking. One of the things, when I talked to you about earlier about how you were already kind of in the world of accounting and finance and all that kind of stuff. Did it ever cross your mind before you came down the rabbit hole and started exploring Bitcoin and blockchain that our kids, and not even just our kids, us, everyone, needed much more education about how our economy works, how finances work, and, investing and all that kind of stuff? Because I think personally, I had one economics class. It was in 10th grade. And the only thing I remember from that class are supply and demand, the rules of supply and demand, and there's no such thing as a free lunch. That's it. Those are the only 2 things I remembered from that class. And then I went on to become a lit major at UC Irvine, so I didn't have to take any economic classes. But I mean, that was it. That was the extent of my learning. Did you feel, as someone in that space, that people really need that this needs to be taught in schools, and better understanding of it just as a regular part of the curriculum?
Yeah. And I mean, even definitely, even as someone who was in that world for a handful of years, and obviously going through college studying forms of that, I would even say for myself, it's never enough, and there's not enough taught in that sense. I remember to this day, one of my favorite parts of being in elementary school, maybe you guys had it too, was the day when they came and kind of set up the fake town or city at your school, and you all had your different roles, and you'd learn how to balance a checkbook, which sounds crazy today, and kind of go off and you could spend X amount. If I think about my entire learning of kind of how money works, that's what stands out the most, which is probably crazy. And just
no, it's not that. That's great. It was a way for you guys to learn at that age group how to really manage things. We didn't back in my day. We didn't have that at all. Like I said, it was one economics class that I chose to take in 10th grade and as an elective, and that was it. I mean, there was no other attempt to teach kids from an early age how to manage these things on their own, or to maybe become business owners or entrepreneurs or anything like that.
We have that here in our school district, and it's a joint venture with JA or Junior Achievement, and it's a fantastic facility. Like the 6th graders all come for a day. They have like literally a little city built with all these businesses and storefronts. And each group of kids has their own business, and they have to operate it. They have to take money to the bank, go get a loan, all these things. And so I volunteered with it when my daughter was in 6th grade, and then I went back when she was in the 8th grade, and then it was a separate section where it was more about home finances, and they had to manage their own home finances. And some of them were assigned a profile where they were poor and they only had so much money, and they had 3 children and they were single, or some of them were married with no kids and made a lot of money, and they had to navigate that. But the problem, and it was just absolutely incredible. I was so impressed. But what was sad was they only got like 4 hours, and it still didn't sink into them. And I was like, man, they need to do this for like a whole week. Because it's so important. So
Finance Park in Biztown is what you're talking about?
Yes. It was amazing. I was so impressed with that.
Yeah. So this could be another tangent, but actually Journey's Map is the company of my full-time job. We're actually working with the local JA in revamping their Finance Park, starting with Finance Park, by leveraging some of the tools we're building there and potentially moving that national. So that could be weaving its way into the sites that your daughters went to as well, ultimately. So I'm very familiar with that world as well.
Have more kids going there, but what I also figured out was the teachers are supposed to have done some advanced training with the kids before they get there, and I found that a lot of them really didn't do it.
And that's really what you find, whether it's JA related or just in general. The teachers don't always take that initiative to make those steps.
Yeah,
they don't have the time. They also, a lot of times, sadly, they don't have the expertise.
Right. Yeah. Because they went through the school systems and had the same trajectory that many of us did, and we just didn't get that kind of attention to these important issues.
It's not fair for them. If you're saying, cybersecurity is one of the most booming fields, not only in the United States but across the world. But there's not a sixth grade teacher out there who knows what it's like to be in that field. So it's really not fair to expect them to be able to teach that or even bring awareness to it to their kids.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, when my kids, I have a 16-year-old daughter and a 7-year-old son, and the 16-year-old, she was already aware of digital currency and Bitcoin and had basic understandings of peer-to-peer activity when I started to get involved in this in 2018. My son just hears me talk about it all the time, but if this comes to his school or my daughter's school, or there's an opportunity for them to get involved in a program separately like this, like you were just talking about, I would sign them up in a heartbeat. In fact, they'd be pissed to find out that I'm going to be in that class too. It's never too late to learn about that. I mean, I was lucky. I stumbled across blockchain and Bitcoin and really became aware of things that I had no clue of on both sides when I learned about it. But those are important life lessons too. Yeah, no,
you said it very well, and the lessons you learn on the way, you never expect when they're going to happen. So you kind of grab a hold of them when they do and see where it takes you.
Well, tell us where people can find you and where exactly they can get this game and
so it's all stuff. So the website is SHAmory.com, SHAMORY. So you can find it on there, all the video that we played earlier, other information, and whatnot. You can order right on there, worldwide shipping. So whether you're here in the States or anywhere else, we can get it to you. I did make a discount code for all of your listeners in case they're interested. So if they want to get...
cool. Thank you.
Yep, no problem. If they want to get 10% off in the promo box, they can drop in Elsa 10, and that'll give them... There we go. That'll give them 10% off. So feel free to use that to your heart's content. So there's that. We're most active on social media on Twitter. So Play SHAmory is the game's handle. I'm also on there at Scott M. Sibley. So whether you want to reach out to either of those, I like engaging. So I will for sure get back to you and answer any questions or hear your feedback or ideas or whatnot. Those are the best ways to track me down.
All right. Terrific, Scott. I really want to thank you for joining us today. And I was very excited to learn about your game. And I'm excited for my kids to start playing it when I force them to. And but I really think that they will end up liking it quite a bit. And it's something for all of us to do together. You can think of it that way. The entire family can learn at the same time.
Well, I appreciate both of you having me on and the kind words, and I look forward to hearing what it's like after you guys play a few rounds.
Yeah, I'm going to do a drinking game version of
it. Perfect.
We're going to find out.
Perfect.
That one will resonate with the adults or the college kids, SHAmory beer pong edition. Yep. I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. All right, Scott, thank you so much for your time. Really appreciate it.
And thank you very much.